Hi there. Hello. It is a beautiful day at the park, and I thought I would spend some time talking about my walk progress. Oddly enough, I do a lot of crafting and do a lot of making things in my own time, and I've just wanted to share what that's like for me. I tend to have a 4-day, 3-day type of week, and it is not at all assigned to the actual days of the week. For context, I work retail, and so every week is a little different. I might work every Wednesday, but if I work Tuesdays up in the air, that sort of thing. And so it just kind of cycles around without any standard of like, this is my Monday or this is my Friday or whatever. I tend to start the week off with a project. At this point, I've probably planned out, for example, if it's sewing, I've thought about, I have the pattern, I have the fabric's pre-washed, and day one is when I iron it and I cut out the pieces and I start stitching things and all that. And I'll work on it for about 3 to 4 days. If I have work that day, like my actual job that pays me money, I will work in the morning or in the evening, basically whichever one has more time when I'm not at work. And if I have the day off, it just takes over my entire day. And I sew for 8 to 10 hours, and then I have regrets. But I enjoy it in the moment, and so I keep doing it. So I do that for 3 to 4 days, and at that point I'm in a habit of, it's on my mind, and I wake up and I'm like, okay, we're gonna work on this thing. And I do that until I wake up one day and I'm like, ugh, I do not want to work on this right now. And so then I don't, and that's when my weekends. If I have other plans, I might decide ahead of time, okay, we're not going to work on it this day. But generally, it's like, I don't want to do this, and so I'm not going to. And I put it aside. I might spend that day cleaning up a bit. If I made a lot of fabric scraps and they're on the floor, I'll pick it up. I'll put away my project somewhat. It'll still probably be on my table, but it'll be nicely folded, or it'll be at the top of my fabric stash, just not spread out and not encouraging me to work on it when I'm not supposed to be working on it, when I've already decided I'm not going to work on it. So that's day one. Day one of my weekend, or my not working days. Usually in an ideal situation, it doesn't always work this way because self-control. Usually I will, if I wake up and I don't feel like working on something, I will spend that day not working on anything. That's what today is, and that's why I'm making this, I guess, because I have to always be doing something. But if I have work in the evening, like today, I'll just have a very leisurely morning. I'll go for a bike ride. And it's a lot easier to take days off when the weather's nice. And I will actively not work on anything that I have. I tend to have 3 or 4 projects kind of in rotation, working on whatever I feel like. And I do my best to not just switch gears and work on something else, because if I do that, then I'll be working for 9 days straight, and that's not good, and it's not fun, and you have regrets, and I try not to do that. So it's just about listening to myself and knowing, if you don't feel like working on something, we're not going to try putting your energy into something else. We're going to spend the time breathing, spend the time enjoying the weather, and just don't even think about work. And that tends to be a really nice way to refresh yourself and get well rested. I really enjoy those days, and it's really important for my sanity. And I'm already aware that I have a ridiculous output and that I do way more than the average person. And so it's important to be like, productivity be damned, we're taking a break. Anyway, so after that first day of rest, I'll spend another day or two kind of slowly getting back into it, depending on how I'm feeling. That might become like a 3-day weekend of we're not doing anything. More than likely it'll be like a 2-day weekend of we're not doing anything. And then on that 3rd day, it'll be slowly reassessing what projects I have. Do I want to get back to work on what I started last week? Do I want to return to an existing project? Did something else catch my attention and I have to work on that right now? I try not to have too many things going on at once, because that's how you lose sight of things completely. But like right now, I'm not in a place to start a new project because I'm in the middle of 2 of them right now, 3 technically. And after this mini weekend, I will probably go back to one of the 2 things that I'm currently working on. But if I was starting a new project, I would start to kind of think about it on that 3rd weekend day, start to kind of plan it out, figure out what I'm doing, and then the next day will be the beginning of my new week, about 7 days total. And that's when I'll get back into it and I'll start again saying, okay, this is the project, this is the focus for the week. This mostly applies to hobbies, again, sewing, block printing, embroidery, the things that I do in my free time, but there are other things that I need to do, just as like a functional adult. So if I'm moving at the end of the summer, I will take either a day that is not one of my productive days and it's not one of my weekdays. It'll just kind of be inserted in the middle of, today we're going to work on something else. If it's a longer project, like finding an apartment takes a while, I might set aside a week being like my 3 to 4 day week period, and be like, okay, the theme for this section of days is we're going to find a house, or do our taxes, or whatever adult functioning thing there is on the docket. Yeah, and so I just go through like that, 3 to 4 days walking, 2 to 3 days taking a break, and maybe a day or 2 of productivity unrelated in there. And it really depends, and I really hop around. I finished a dress recently that I put on the side for like over a month because there were other more exciting things. And then I picked it up and I'm like, oh yeah, this thing. But very rarely do I ever actually like give up on a project. Rarely do I have completely unfinished projects. I can only think of 2 right now. I have a 3rd one. So the first 2 that I was thinking of, there's 2 projects that I had started and they are properly abandoned. I am never going back to them. And that's because they were things that I didn't realize that I didn't know how to do. And I didn't want to learn. So I was going to make a plushie, and then I realized I do not have the math skills or the sewing accuracy for plushies, and I don't like working with fleece. And then the other thing was a quilt, and I did 0 research into making a quilt, and the fabric that was going to become my quilt became multiple articles of clothing. And so neither of those things are ever going to be restarted, and that's fine. And I have no guilt with it other than not knowing what to do with the scraps. But if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and you can move on. Most things I start get finished. It just will take a while. My embroidery projects take on average 6 months because they're very detailed, and I really mostly pick them up in that in-between stage of, I don't feel like working on something like clothing that'll be like very high intensity. I just kind of feel like chipping away at something slowly. And yeah, that's what's worked well for me. That is what I enjoy doing. I enjoy not being confined to a 5-day work week. I mean, I still, again, I do have a job, but this is what I've found has worked for me in terms of hobbies and doing what I want to do. And yeah, thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time if I do this again.